Welcome to Jumping Bomb Audio.
It is time again to talk about Joshi Pro Wrestling. I'm Aaron Bentley. I'm joined again by my good friend, Taylor Mainberg. How are you doing, Taylor?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about a number of great shows that are going on in this very strange time in the world.
Yeah, so everything is weird, as everyone knows, but there was this time where it looked like Joshi was going to be the last wrestling left standing. And now it kind of looks like that's not going to be the case, that even Joshi might have to shut down for some short period of time.
Yeah, there was a brief time when it looked like everything was going to start coming back. There was the big DDT show in the middle of March and a few other shows that seemingly started having people back, and it looked like it was sort of turning the corner and we'd get everything back. And then all of a sudden it sort of doubled down and got worse. And all of these... even the Joshi shows started canceling, which had sort of made it through, at least the smaller promotions had made it through sort of unscathed from all the issues. But now it looks like a lot of places are canceling or postponing shows.
Well, how are you holding up, Taylor? You're in New York, right? So you're at the epicenter.
I am. I'm in the epicenter. I live alone in an apartment, so it's actually been 2.5 weeks that I've been in quarantine/isolation. It's a little bit lonely, but I think like a lot of other people, doing a lot of Zoom meetings, doing a lot of FaceTiming with my family, with my parents. So, you know, I'm keeping up, and I'm still working from home. So that's sort of keeping me in a schedule, at least, where I have sort of, you know, something at least during the week to wake up and do every day, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, I was talking to Aaron Taub maybe last week, who lives in Queens, which I guess is like the epicenter of the coronavirus in the United States. And he's like, you know, I'm struggling with this or that. And I'm like, dude, you got to get out and take a walk. I've been taking walks. They're great. He's like, you know, maybe it's a little different taking a walk in Queens than it is in your neighborhood, Aaron. But it's like hard to avoid people walking around here, you know? It's like, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you go out and there's still people on the sidewalk and you just, you know, you don't even know. I actually had my mother texting me earlier this week, like 3 days in a row. She texted me these very panicky text messages of like, don't leave your apartment. Don't go out. You can't do it. It's unsafe. And I had to text her and just say, I'm in my apartment. I'm very safe. You know, it's okay. And so, yeah, it's fine. Hoping we get through it sooner rather than later. But getting through it, watching a lot of wrestling is definitely helping.
Yes, there's been I would say there's been a lot of wrestling, but it's actually been a little less, I think, at least in Joshi, than it had been there for a bit. So we're going to talk about everything that's been going on recently. Unfortunately, a lot of the big shows that we want to talk about aired right after our last episode. So it might be a little bit old, but I don't think any other podcasts have talked about them. So we still will have beaten a lot of podcasts to the punch. So I'll give you a rundown quickly of how you can find us. We're on Twitter at JBombAudio. I got to do better with the Twitter account, Taylor. I haven't been posting much on there.
I think we both do, because I also had the same thought this week. Probably, especially if, you know, the longer that this sort of quarantine isolation goes on, I definitely want to hop on if shows do happen to come out, like the Ice Ribbon dojo shows where there's no crowd, or maybe a Tokyo Joshi show. Definitely want to hop on the Twitter and maybe do a live tweet along with one of those shows.
Yeah, I joked with Matt SDL on Twitter that we just needed to hire him to do all the news, because he retweets like everything and translates it into English immediately. So And I was finding myself just wanting to retweet all his tweets. I guess maybe I should do something more creative with the Twitter account. So we're going to work on that. We're still new at this, so we're going to work on that. You can find.
Yeah, it's only our third episode, so we're still getting in the groove.
That's right. Yeah, thanks everyone for listening to these early episodes. But obviously, you should never listen to a podcast until it's like 20 episodes in. So, just give us some time. We'll get it figured out. So I'm at Aaron Like the Car if you want to find my very bad tweets. Taylor is at TA Mambo, which he doesn't do a lot of tweeting, to be honest. But maybe
I didn't. I tweeted this week. The tweet bombed, so I'll probably go back to not tweeting again.
Well, it's hard when you come back from the dead to get some engagement going, Taylor.
Sure. Yeah, that's very true.
You got to post through it and just see what happens. So you can subscribe to this podcast, of course. Just search Jumping Bomb Audio on the podcast app of your choice, or you can get us as part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. If you're on the Apple Podcast app, please give us a rating and review so people can find this who don't know about it yet. And if you're feeling particularly generous, I would suggest you give to people who are actually being harmed by coronavirus and not us. So I'm not even going to give the link this week, as a matter of fact. So here's what we're going to talk about on this show. We've got Stardom Cinderella tournament, of course, that happened back on March 24th. We've got basically a whole bunch of other shows. Some of the highlights, the SEADdLINNG show from March 10th, the Sendai Girls Joshi Rookie tournament that happened, the first round, happened on March 28th. I guess those are the biggest shows that happened. We're going to talk about all those, but we're going to talk about a lot more. And as we always do on this podcast, we're going to break down our recommended matches from the last 2 weeks. And I see Taylor has a little bonus recommended match that did not happen in the last 2 weeks. And we'll talk about shows that are coming up and basically just everything that goes on in Joshi is what we try to cover on this show. But I think we're going to get started, even though it was about 2 weeks ago, with the Stardom Cinderella tournament. So the ultimate outcome here, Taylor, is Giulia is your Cinderella tournament winner. She has come from just showing up in this promotion to the Tokyo Dome to winning the Cinderella tournament. It looks like she's going to be challenging Arisa Hoshiki if they can have the Stardom anniversary show at Oda War Gymnasium on April 29th. So start wherever you want, Taylor. Your thoughts on this year's Cinderella tournament.
Well, I guess my overall thoughts on the show in general is I thought that I enjoyed last year's Cinderella tournament as well, but I thought that this was definitely a step up in terms of match quality, especially in terms of the first round, which sometimes can go by fast. You sort of get these more, time limit draw, or you get over the top rope finishes. Didn't get a ton of those this year, which I think really helped with the match quality. I thought it was a really strong first round, some interesting results that we didn't predict on the show, although we did nail the final match perfectly, as well as the winner. So I think it was good, and it's clear, as we talked about on the last show, that Giulia is the sort of it girl of the moment in Stardom. So no surprise to me that she came out victorious.
We've talked on this show about whether Giulia whether she's more of a potential play than she is like a present play, right? As far as who she is as a worker, as a full package. Did anything about this tournament change your mind one way or the other about Giulia's potential going forward?
I'll say no. I know that a lot of people really enjoyed the final match. I didn't love it. I didn't dislike it. I don't want to sound like I was really hating it, but to me, it was sort of that fine level that Giulia seems to always operate at for me personally. So I don't know that my mind was changed, even though I sort of recognize that this is the way that the promotion is clearly going towards Giulia, giving Giulia these bigger, building her up, giving her bigger and bigger matches. So really, I don't know that anyone in the tournament really, I don't know that I changed my mind on anyone, and Giulia would be included in that.
I'm not sure that the matches changed anything about Giulia for me. She was at her best when it felt like, kind of a brawl type match. And she did those, especially in the final with Natsuko Tora, which I really liked. It's in one of my recommended matches, so I'll maybe talk about it a little bit more later. I liked it a lot. But in the post match, when she's got her dress, her tiara, let's talk about that before we get into what I was about to say. What do you think about the gimmick here, that the winner of the tournament gets a dress, a tiara, and a wish?
I always like tournaments. I guess I'll start with the easiest part, which is I always like tournaments where people win and get to determine what they want. I think that's always fun. I like for example, the New Japan Cup, which is mostly always people challenging for the heavyweight title, but it is sort of a wish. I like that. I like single elimination tournaments. I think they're fun and you can do a lot of fun things. In terms of the dress and the tiara, I don't know. I feel sort of, I guess I feel agnostic about it a little bit in that, it is a bit odd to see someone go, oh, I won the tournament, instead of coming out and just handing them a trophy. They have to, go backstage and change clothes and then come back out and it's, the winner. But it's certainly unique. I'll say that. I don't know that there's any other tournament where the winner gets a article of clothing to wear in victory. So, I enjoy it. I think it's unique. It's very Stardom in their vein of sort of what they try and do in terms of presenting their talent.
Yeah, I really like it. I just think it's fun. I don't know. It's like, it is weird that you have to go back and you put the dress on and come back out. And I've heard criticism that it's like, how can Natsuko Tora win this? She's just not the kind of person who you would expect to see in like a dress. Although I think there's there's a universe where there's this like really cool Natsuko Tora centric dress that she's created for this moment, So I'm not sure I buy that. I just kind of like, it's goofy, it's silly, but it's like cute, it's whimsical, it's wrestling. I like it.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if it was an article of clothing that might be slightly more tailored, not physically tailored, but sort of the look of it towards the winner. It's sort of the dress is sort of a generic. It's usually one color. Sometimes it's based on, a color that the wrestler wears or something like that. But I think it would be interesting to have something that was more individualized, and maybe they get it. And at the next, instead of changing at that very show and coming out, it would be fun if maybe that they got to wear it at the next show. Maybe it's not a full dress, or maybe it's something a little bit less difficult to take on and put on and take off. But yeah, I'm certainly not against it in any way. I think it's fun. Definitely in the Stardom, fits the Stardom look and the Stardom attitude.
I wonder if it's influenced or inspired by King of the Ring. It's like that idea of like a single elimination tournament where you got an article of clothing, right? Usually got the crown and, like a cape of some sort. So,
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, but that would kind of change their gimmick for a while, right? Everybody would be like King Booker or whatever. They would kind of do a new thing, King Harley Race.
Although that's not. I don't know if that's part of it, or if it's sort of that booking team going, oh, well, they're the king, so let's just call them king, and that'll be Yeah, I don't know that that's a requirement of winning King of the Ring. I just think it's something they like doing because it's an easy sort of storytelling idea.
Right. That's true. But it's in the Stardom version, I just enjoy it. Maybe it'd be fun if it's kind of like the idea, I think it's like there's just this one dress that has been purchased. That's kind of the way they present it. And whoever wins is going to get the dress, But it kind of be fun if like Natsuko had a dress made and Hana had a dress made. And it's like, well, whoever wins gets to wear their dress.
Yeah, or you choose before the show, you say, this is what I want my dress to, like there's some, discussion saying, oh, if I win, I want my dress to be this. And then if you win, you get the dress that has XYZ on it or looks a certain way or something like that. I think that would be fun.
You have like a design of the dress put together. You can even at the little press conference before the tournament, they could show off their designs and what they want their dress to look like. And then at the next
here we
show,
go. Look at this.
Yeah, then at the next show, they come out in a dress. This is good stuff.
This is. I hope someone in Power and Stardom is listening to this.
Me too. Kadani, I'm sure, is listening.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Here's my Giulia thought. Here's like, I've turned the worm on Giulia. And it was her post-match promo. She talks in the promo about like coming into Stardom at a very low point in her life. And I think like the whole thing with leaving Ice Ribbon was maybe weird, and understandably so. And then like you can easily imagine that people in the promotion don't like her, in that she was immediately pushed. She had this weird thing of leaving her former company. She was one of the fourth at Tokyo Dome after being there like 3 days. So I think what she was saying in the promo, which is something that she doesn't normally project, was that she really was having a crisis of confidence in like her real life. And I think a lot of the awkwardness we've seen out of her could be explained by that. And not only the awkwardness in the ring, but just like the awkwardness in her. She has this like kind of charisma that sometimes doesn't really come out because it seems like forced or put upon. And maybe that's because she hasn't really had that confidence under her. And maybe we saw in this tournament, she gets 4 matches. She does pretty well in just about all of them. She obviously has the backing of the company, which she already did, but this is another example of that. Maybe we see some more confidence from her, and we get to go from a character who is just like kind of snotty, better than you type character to someone who like overcame something and is now in the best position to succeed. This could all be headcanon, but it's just kind of what I see based on the post-match promo.
Yeah, I think it is important to remember that she is still fairly new in her career. I mean, she's been around for a little bit, but we're not talking about someone who's been around for 10 years, is a veteran, and is totally sort of set in stone about what kind of wrestler she is, or, how good she is, or what her personality is. So she has room to grow. So it's certainly not, I think it has been partially a little bit of a bumpy introduction. And I think part of that is the company really putting a lot on her shoulders very, very quick, which would be tough for a lot of people, especially in this company where the expectations are so high. It's definitely the Joshi promotion that I think has the most eyes on it, and therefore the most sort of number of fans that are going to look at it with a very critical eye. So I think that she has room to grow. And it's interesting to see if maybe this win, by herself, not with Syuri or Micah, just on her own in singles matches, she wins 4, she gets this promo. Maybe that's the launching pad to really take her to the next step.
All right, let's talk about some of your favorite matches from the promotion. So, whatever, a handful of matches that you thought were better than the rest.
So there were 2 that stuck out for me. The first one was Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid. Thought that was a really great match. A surprising result, because on this show we both predicted Starlight Kid would go through, but Momo pulled out the victory.
I don't recall predicting that for sure.
You'll have to go back and listen to the entirety of episode 2 again. Everyone, go back and listen to give it another download, please.
Yes, I would never bet against Momo Watanabe. I think everyone knows.
And the other one I liked, and I think we're going to have some disagreement on this, Aaron, is Tam Nakano and Saki Kashima, which is a match that I really liked, even though I sort of had a lot of thoughts that maybe you would think I didn't like it. Because the thing is, I think Saki's a really strong wrestler, but I'm not really sure what's going on with her turning heel. She's in Oedo Tai, and now she just seems to lose all the time. I'm not sure if they just wanted her in Oedo Tai as a body because they needed a certain number of people in the group just to fill it out and have the numbers in terms of setting up matches and things like that. But I enjoyed the match, even though on the surface, I'm not really connecting so much with Saki's heel character.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like the whole Saki to Oedo Tai thing was just not that well thought out. Of like you're seeing Kagetsu and Hazuki both leave the promotion, so the unit is really dwindling. But this was before they did the B Priestley thing, so it's just like, I don't know. It's hard to say whether it all was intended to happen the way it did, but I feel bad for Saki in a lot of ways, in that she was kind of in the role in Stars of just like a body. You know, she had her biggest feud was the one with Natsu, recently, which, while very entertaining, a feud over Natsu coming out and singing Saki's theme song, very entertaining. But perhaps not like, as high up the card as Saki might want to be. So when this first happened and she joined Oedo Tai, I was like, this is great. It gives her a chance to do something different. You could imagine her kind of getting lost in the shuffle, especially in the Bushiroad era, as they start bringing in some talent that's going to be placed higher up. So I thought, okay, Saki gets this shot against Mayu at the No People Gate show. And she lost, but that's like, I don't know off the top of my head if she'd main evented a Korakuen before that. Certainly, I don't think she had in a singles match. So she's got that going for her, but then it like didn't really go anywhere. I thought she might get a little momentum in this tournament, and she didn't. And she's kind of just finds herself back in the same spot that she was in Stars, but like with a new coat of paint.
Yeah, and a coat of paint that I'm not sure if it really fits her all that well either. I'm not sure if she's meant to be a heel or if she's a natural heel. Now, maybe she's still working into the role, but yeah, it's a bit confusing to me as well.
This was like the only match in the tournament that I just didn't like at all. So I love that it's like one of your two favorites. That's very funny to me. I mean, to me, it was like, my note literally says fine is what I wrote after the match. I did like that Saki, she was the first one. So the way the tournament kind of worked out was the first round didn't really have over the top rope finishes. And then the second round was like, and going forward from there was like every match was focused around whether they were going to go over the top rope. So I like that Saki specifically built her offense around trying to get Tom over the top rope. So I thought that was smart and interesting, but the match didn't do a lot for me. Although Tom didn't have a great night generally, so it's hard to blame it all on Saki. All right, my favorite matches. I also enjoyed the Momo Starlight Kid match, but part of my enjoyment of it was expecting that Starlight Kid was going to win, and so they were able to play against that type, whether they realized it or not. It was like every near fall was believable for me. So that was fun. I thought the best match of the tournament was the Maika Utami Hayashishita draw in the first round. This was, they've wrestled each other before. They wrestled in Just Tap Out. I think that was before we started doing the show. But they wrestled in Just Tap Out and had a really good match. And so they have a little more chemistry. Maika's like, 20 matches into her career. So she doesn't always seem like that well put together, that polished, understandably so. So it was smart to put her in here with Utami, who she's worked with before. But I thought this was great. I mean, they were just at each other like they hated each other, which is something that I really enjoy. I think Maika is, head and shoulders above most people who've worked, 20 some matches in a year or two. You can imagine her being, I'm not sure she has the charisma to be like a star in wrestling. Of course, she's very new and very young, so she could certainly come out of her shell. But I do think she can be a Momo level worker, which coming from me is very high praise. I think Momo is one of the best in the world. So I think she can be really good. And I love this.
Yeah, I think Micah is interesting, and I think she'll, of course, get better as she has more matches because she has almost no matches under her belt. I actually wrote in my notes, I think she does also have a lot of potential, but I think something right now is missing, and I can't exactly put my finger on what I think is missing with her, but I think it is really along the lines of what you mentioned, in that I don't know that I see her as developing into a top star. I don't know if she has sort of the it factor that you need. I think she'll get better and probably be a very good worker, especially if she continues to work in Stardom like she is, because I think you almost, working with the amount of talent in Stardom that they have, it's almost natural that you get better, as we've seen from a lot of people who have come into the promotion maybe on a lower level in ring wise and have gotten a lot better and improved. So yeah, I think the potential is there. It's just something that I can't quite put my finger on is missing with her.
I'll credit Mike Spears for this take, but she's also like Taki Michinoku's legacy at this point. Like with everything that happened with Taka, with his scandal and kind of having to leave his own dojo, being run out of New Japan, it's like this is his trainee that he has. You know, Yoshida's gone from K Dojo. So it's really just Micah, and he's clearly like a very good trainer. So you can see him really being invested in her continued improvement. Is the point that Mike made, which I buy into.
Yeah, they've got a couple people in Just Tap Out, but it seems very clear that Micah is head and shoulders above everyone else, both in her matches that she's already had and also in the way that she's positioned in Just Tap Out, as well as getting into Stardom. I think that there's a bunch of people who see something in her. So I definitely agree. I think that she's probably one person who carries on that legacy, and who knows what happens with Just Tap Out or Taka or any of those things, with all the different possibilities swirling of new promotions opening and coming in and maybe taking Taka in as a trainer. That's certainly possible, but yeah, she is the definite number one in Just Tap Out in terms of someone who has the best likelihood to become something in the future.
My other favorite match was the final, the Giulia Natsuko match, which I pretty much talked about why I liked it so much, but they were able to smartly, basically there were no crowd brawls in this entire tournament until this match, which, you know, probably for health reasons, not a great idea, but for freshening up the match, it really worked because you hadn't seen it happen throughout the tournament. And when you're sitting through a single elimination tournament in one night, it's good to be able to change things up a little bit. And they did that successfully here. I thought, they brought in a little bit of plunder, which I thought worked. And just overall, I liked it a lot. But the person I want to shout out that I didn't have a match that just like blew me away, but I thought Syuri was really good in every match that she was involved in this tournament. The Jamie Hayter match was probably my favorite. And that's a match that I'm like dying to see a full length version of that match with some real stakes. They're two of my favorites. But I think she's really come into Stardom and is comfortable and is able to like do her thing here. And it just works. She's really good.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on the last episode, but I definitely think she has now come back and sort of the rust now is gone. She was out of wrestling doing MMA and UFC for a few years and came back, and it's felt like she's gotten into it more and more. And now I think that she's fully back. She's back in the rhythm. She knows, she has it sort of in her brain what she needs to do. And I think we're going to talk about her a couple other times on this episode. She's gotten very good and been very valuable, not only for Stardom, but a couple of other promotions as well.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about with regard to the Cinderella tournament is Giulia wins. She challenges Arisa Hoshiki for the white belt at the April 29th show at Oda Ward Gymnasium. Now, the problem with that, well, there's a few problems. One, who knows what shows are going to be happening because of everything going on in the world. But 2, Arisa's been out with some sort of injury. Giulia did mention that in her promo. She said, if you can't recover in time, then you need to just hand over the white belt. So we should know, by the end of this month, whether that match is going to happen and what the stakes are going to be for it. But what do you think generally, Taylor, about if the match happens, who do you think should win? And where do you think this story should go?
I think that if the match happens, I think I only see it with Giulia winning. I think that that's the natural story of her sort of rising up in this company. I'm not sure if Arisa wins, what the story moving forward would be with that. She's beaten a lot of people in the company. I'm not sure that there's any prevalent story built around her and the title right now that would necessitate keeping the title on her instead of Giulia. And I also think if Giulia were to lose, it might put a little bit of stop to that momentum they're trying to build with her. And then, of course, once Giulia has it, she has a lot of matches, both from what happened in this tournament. She obviously has the brewing or ongoing feud with Hana that they can go back to, and maybe Hana, the end of that story is Hana beats her for the title, and then Hana has the title. So I think it's definitely, if the match happens, it's definitely going to Giulia. I would be interested to see if Arisa is still injured. I have no idea. I don't think anything has really come out about what the injury is, how long they expect her to be out. I think it would be interesting if they get to that point and she is still injured, whether they do something with that title. I'm not sure that they would say, okay, we're delaying the match. The match is going to happen in 2 months. I think there would be something where maybe they vacate it and they make it Giulia against someone, or maybe Giulia is awarded the title and defends it against someone. But I think anyway, after that show or the date of that show, I think Giulia is going to have the title one way or the other.
If the match happens, Giulia not winning would be just the worst possible idea I could think of, just for all the reasons that you already said. But I don't like the idea of just like handing her the belt. I think she has to beat somebody to get the belt and continue her momentum. But most importantly, Arisa needs to lose because she's gently approaching Momo's defense record, and I really don't like that.
That's the most important thing to think about.
Yes, Momo 13 defenses of the white belt, most all time, and I just I've been really concerned for a while that Arisa was going to match it or exceed it. And, that's the only good thing about coronavirus has been that it has stopped Arisa from being able to defend this title. Okay. Taylor's going to leave that alone. So
yeah, I'm not touching that one.
Okay. Well, if you haven't listened before, we start with like the big shows we want to talk about. And then we do a segment called Spark Notes, which we're going to do now. But Spark Notes is going to be a big segment this time because we're going to go through a lot of shows that have happened over the past 2 weeks. But just briefly, just to talk really quickly about what we liked or didn't like. And the idea here being, if you aren't familiar with these promotions, it gives you a little background and you kind of know what might be good to go check out. If you are familiar, it should still give you an idea of like time management wise, what you definitely need to see. We can just kind of keep you up to date on it. So the idea here is we're just going to go chronologically. If you're not familiar with Joshi, things kind of air on bizarre schedules sometimes. So the very first show we're going to talk about actually happened back on February 24th, but aired pretty recently. So we're going to start there. Taylor, your thoughts on the Joshi matches that occurred on 01's Super Fireworks show on February 24th.
So I thought it was a fun show. Only 2 Joshi matches. There was a trios match lower down the card, which was fun, but sort of a lower card match. And then, of course, the big reason to watch the show was the main event, which was I think I'm getting this right, a Super Fireworks Blast death match.
Almost. It's a Super Plasma Blast death match.
Okay.
I mean, that's according to Cage Match. That could be a
yes.
But
that was a tag match between Mayumi Ozaki and Sayori Anou. against Aja Kong and Hiroyo Matsumoto. Now, Matsumoto and Ozaki had a blast death match at Oz Academy's big show last September 2019, which was super fun. One of my favorite matches. So to me, this had a lot to live up to. I didn't like it as much as that match, but still really enjoyed it. One thing I do have to say, I'm very grateful for Nico Pro, that Nico Pro brings us a lot of smaller shows that we probably would have no way to see, at least in the Western world, without Nico Pro. But the end of this match, the conclusion of the match, it's a blast death match, which means things explode. The biggest final climactic explosion of the match is covered up by the commentary box, because on Nico Pro, they bring in wrestlers or people involved with the company to commentate on the matches, and they often put them in a small square in the corner of the screen so you can see them. I find it not very useful because I don't really watch the shows to see the commentators, but this one was especially egregious. The big final explosion is covered up by the commentary box, which drove me crazy. But other than that, a super fun match. Definitely totally different than 99% of Joshi matches you'll see in a given year. So I enjoyed it. Aaron, what did you think?
Well, I loved it, but I also got to watch the Gaora version of it. It was appended to at the beginning of the 3/8 Oz Academy show. And so not blocked off by the commentary there.
Oh, interesting. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch it in that version.
Yeah.
Because I do want to see that. I mean, it is, even having it partially blocked or mostly blocked, it looked very cool. The final moments of the match are very cool. Definitely exciting. So maybe I will go back and watch it in that version.
I would recommend it. This was I was crazy about this. This is it's the leader in the clubhouse to be the number 10 match on my match of the year list. It's in my top 5 so far. I just loved it. I think this stipulation is so fun, where you have to crawl over to the corner and hit the button to electrify the bat, and then you just hit people with it and it explodes. That's fun. But the climbing over there to hit the button leads to a lot of good abilities to have cutoffs. So that's always interesting. Are they going to make it? Are they going to hit the person before somebody else is able to hit the button and turn off the whole gimmick? So I just thought it was an outrageous amount of fun. Matsumoto was especially great here. I thought she's probably the star of the match for me. And I just loved it. I think everybody should go watch this. Those are all my takes on the February 2401 show. But next up is the Oz Academy show I was talking about, the March 8th show. And I know, Taylor, you're a much bigger Oz Academy fan than I am, so I'm going to let you run with this.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun show. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but certainly if you like the style, it was a fun show. I really liked the opener, which was Ibuki Hoshi from Ice Ribbon and Yoshiko against Seki-gun, Ozaki-gun of Mayumi Ozaki and Saori Ano again. Just a super fun match. I really enjoy the style of sort of this interference, people coming in, sort of the baby faces in peril. And I think that Oz Academy is really good. They have the style down because they do it pretty much every show at this point. They have the style down where they know how to get all the way up to maybe the line where if you went over the line, you would think, oh, this is maybe a little bit ridiculous. They're very good at getting right up to that line and not crossing it. So I thought that the opening match was a lot of fun. I also thought the main event was fun. It's a very Oz Academy match where it's point-based, based on it's 30 minutes of time, and there's singles matches. It's a 4-on-4 match where everyone has single matches, and if you get a pin or submission, you get a point for your team. And then at the end, they have this 4-on-4 match with the same rules where you get a point for a pin or a submission or some sort of decision. And then at the end, the team that has the most points wins the match. So I think it's a lot of fun. It's different than sort of a one fall match where you sort of get the one decision and that's the end of the match. This one, you can maybe have one team get 2 pinfalls and they're up 2-0, and then the other team has to come back and try and make up now 3 points in order to win. So it gives it a little bit of a different feel, and I thought it was a really fun match as well between Mission K4 and Beast Friend. So those are really the 2 matches that stood out to me on the show.
I really is a strong word, but I liked the opener, and I think it's just that when it's the opener on a card, all the silliness I can enjoy and have fun with more, can tolerate it a little more. When it's the main event and you do a lot of the same kind of silliness, I don't know. That just doesn't work for me. It goes over that line you're talking about for me, where it's like, okay, I can appreciate that in the opener, the referee just like gets involved in the match. That's fine. I can appreciate that, a cop just comes in and starts hitting people with things. But at some point, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? It's ridiculous. I don't know. It's wrestling. I don't want to take it too seriously. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me.
I have one correction in that it's not a cop. It is police. So show some respect, please.
I will never show any respect for any police, to be clear.
He is the only good police in the world, is police.
If you've never seen one of these, you got to watch it. I mean, just to get a sense for whether you like it. It's just something that must be seen, but not something that really appeals to me much. All right, next up, the SEADdLINNG show from March 10. This was in Korakuen Hall, headlined by a Beyond the Sea title match between Arisa Nakajima and Rina Yamashita. What were your thoughts? Well, let's start with the title match. I think it made your recommended matches, so you must have really liked it.
It did. Arisa Nakajima, as I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, is my favorite wrestler in the world. I love her attitude in pretty much every match she has, whether it's a big match like this one or even down the card in a tag match or a trios match or something like that. She comes in with the attitude of just wanting to really scrap and fight, and she will fight anyone. She has a lot of tag matches in the history of SEADdLINNG where she ends up fighting her own tag partner because she just doesn't really care. She just wants to get in there and fight and scrap, and it's always hard hitting and matched up with someone like Rina, who also is sort of the same way, where she's willing to get in there and scrap. I just thought they had a great match. I thought it was super fun, hard hitting, exactly what I expected. Not maybe at the level of, the tippy top matches that I know that they're both capable of, sort of a match of the year contender, but very, very good. I definitely enjoyed it. And some big events going on after the title match as well. So this was a big story heavy event for SEADdLINNG. SEADdLINNG is, they sort of have a pattern to their year every year. It's happened for the past few years where January to March for SEADdLINNG is sort of, there isn't a lot of stories. It's getting into the year for SEADdLINNG. They might have sort of some title matches, but there isn't a lot of story behind them. This one didn't have a lot of story except that Rina was sort of antagonizing Arisa, dumping water on her and making fun of her. But then once they get into April, they sort of kick off the big storylines of the year. Last year, it was Arisa rising to the title, which then climaxed with the big hair match against Nanae Takahashi in November. And it looks like this year is going to be Arisa Nakajima was the leader of the Selfish Strawberries group in SEADdLINNG. That was her unit that she was head of. And after this match, that unit came out to see her. It was Asuka Makoto and Mima Shimoda. They came out and Asuka hit Arisa with a chair, kicked her out of the group. So she is now out of the group, and the big feud is Arisa versus the remaining selfish strawberries. But she is going to get the assist from her longtime tag partner, Tsukasa Fujimoto, who is in the opening match of this card. They have been teaming together for a long time as best friends, the original best friend tag team before the American version happened. So it looks like Arisa, Tsukasa Fujimoto, and Honori Hana, who is the trainee, the SEADdLINNG trainee, are going to unite to face off against the remaining selfish strawberries.
Yeah, I like this match. Don't get me wrong. Thought it was good. Down the stretch, it was really good. But overall, I didn't find it terribly compelling. It's just like, to me, if Arisa is going to win this match in the end, why not just have Rina beat the shit out of her for a little bit? I felt like they kind of went by half measures on that. Like Rina would be on top for a bit, but not long enough. It was a lot of like switching control back and forth without anybody really being down long enough for you to get invested in what was going on. So that's my criticism of the match. But once it got going down toward the finish, it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. It's just for a big title match like that in Korakuen Hall, I just want a more compelling story in the match. The match... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I also think it might have slightly been hurt by the fact that this show happened on March 10th. It was sort of in the midst of all of this going on. They didn't draw very well. They only drew 360 fans to Korakuen. There's sort of the extenuating circumstances of everything going on, but not a great number. So it wasn't was certainly not a full Korakuen Hall, which I think may have hurt the match a little bit. I think it may have been a little bit stronger if they had maybe their usual draw, which is more the lines of 600 or so. So, could have doubled the attendance or so. I think it might have made it a little bit better. I do think the lack of crowd might have hurt the match a little bit.
The match I really liked on this card was the tag match. Hiroyo Matsumoto and Syuri versus Miyuki Takase and Ryo Mizunami. They went to a draw. I thought this was like a 4-star level match. Down the stretch, it was really good, especially the Syuri and Takase exchanges. Hiroyo hit a Judas effect in this match, which amazing. I hope she got clearance to do that. And the Hiroyo and Mizunami, like toward the end, they were also having these like really stiff and brutal exchanges. I love this.
Yeah, it was very good, I think, and we'll be talking about her more later on in this show. But Takase is really having a great 2020, is really, at least for me, rocketing up the sort of standings in terms of, the stars of Joshi. I think that she's, between this and the Wave title match, which we'll talk about later, she is really rising up very quick to me as a big star in the world of Joshi.
All right, next up are a few smaller shows that, frankly, Taylor is the only person who's insane enough to have watched all of them. So I'm going to let you take the wheel here, bud. Drive us.
So Pure J has had a few shows that they've put on their YouTube channel in this sort of strange time of no shows. Pure J has put on a few matches in their dojo in front of no fans, although the first show that I will talk about did have 79 fans in attendance at the dojo. It's a very small single-room dojo. And the first one was actually Leon's 20th anniversary debut show, 20 years since Leon debuted, and she celebrated by having a gauntlet match in the main event of the show on March 15th. So that's fun. Check it out. The whole card is only 3 matches, so a very easy, quick show to get through. They also did stream a show on March 29th that is still up on their YouTube, and they had one match on April 3rd. That is up on their YouTube as well. Just fun shows, nothing too serious. I think the 329 show lasts a total of 45 minutes. So something very quick if you're looking for something quick and easy to watch. Give those a look on the Pure J YouTube channel. And then, as well, Ice Ribbon has been doing a number of shows for no fans. They did have one show in front of fans at Skip City Hall, which is sort of just a show I really enjoyed. The top two matches, I think, are really great. The semifinal featured the joint army team of Tai Hanma, Syuri, and Matsuyu Uno, which I thought was a really great match going up against Tsukasa Fujimoto, Ibuki Hoshi, and Hiragi Kurumi. That a really strong match. I am really into the joint army. I think they're really great. There's a lot of really cool stuff in this match where I think that they are a unit, obviously heavily based on, MMA sort of styles. And there's a lot of things where they go for a pin and the person kicks out and they use that person's momentum to go into a submission or to go into another move. I think they're really cool. It's a really unique unit. And then I thought the main event was really good as well, sort of setting up the a preview of the big Yokohama Bunkai show on May 4th, which hopefully will, fingers crossed, still happen. So it was Mochi Miyagi, Risa Sera, and Suzu Suzuki versus Maya Yuki, Ram Kaicho, and Rina Yamashita. Sort of a preview, but you talk about those six wrestlers, six very talented wrestlers wrestling well. It's pretty much that simple. Maya at one point hits a running knee through the ropes that looks crazy, like a wrestling move that I would not want to ever have happen to me. But another fun match to check out. And they have been doing these dojo shows for no fans. They've been streaming them on their Nico channel. Ice Ribbon has their own Nico channel, so you can check them out there. Very similar. The big match from March 29th was Mayumi Ozaki from Oz Academy coming to Ice Ribbon to take on Tsukushi. She brought police with her. They had a very Oz Academy style match with a lot of interference. Tsukushi lost and got on the microphone after and demanded a match, demanded a tag title match at Yokohama Bunkai against Ozaki and Police. The only issue is Police is not a wrestler. He is a manager. So it looks like it's going to be Tsukushi and Tsukasa Fujimoto against Ozaki and Sayori Anoi for Yokohama Bunkai, which to me sounds like an awesome match. I think that'll be super fun. So those are two other shows to check out from Ice Ribbon.
And you also caught the Marvelous March 20 show?
I did. Marvelous had a show on March 20th. The big match from this is that Maria was supposed to be in the main event. She suffered an injury. I don't even recall what the injury was. It wasn't major because she wrestled the following week in the Sendai show, which we'll talk about in a second. But she was replaced by Chigusa Nagayo, which is a big deal. Chigusa is sort of semi-retired at this point, doesn't wrestle all that often. So it was Chigusa Nagayo and Takumi Iroha versus Masha Slamovich and Mei Hoshizuki. I thought that this match was awesome. Nagayo and Iroha look like two killers in the match. I mean, they come in and they are wailing away especially on Hoshizuki, who takes a lot of punishment in this match, strikes, kicks, things like that. I just thought it was a super fun match, definitely one worth checking out on freshlive.tv to see Chigusa Nagayo, which is a rare treat. As I mentioned, doesn't wrestle too often nowadays, so definitely a match to watch, hard-hitting, and really excellent.
Oh, yeah, I subscribe to freshlive.tv. I better go watch this. I'm wasting my money.
I would highly recommend it. The whole show itself is only, I think, about an hour and 45 minutes as well. So another very easy show to get through.
Next up on our list is the Wave show from March 21, and I did see the main event for the Regina de Wave title. Nagase Nozuki versus I'm not sure why I made that two words, versus Miyuki Takase.
So this is sort of the return for Nozaki got a Actress Girls title match against Takase. Takase won to retain her title. And this is sort of the return match where now Takase gets the match against Nozaki for the Regina de Wave title. The last episode, we talked about the first of those matches for the Actress Girl title, which I really loved. I thought that this match was equally as good. Nozaki, to me, is someone who's always... I don't know that I've ever really had strong opinions about her one way or the other. I always thought that she was sort of a fine wrestler. She has been excellent in these matches. She's got some crazy kicks. I believe at one point, it was a little bit hard to see from the angle that was filmed. I believe there's a shoot headbutt in this match at one point, which is pretty crazy. Just a hard-hitting, lots of kicks from running kicks from Nozaki. Takase's really good at selling for her. She really goes all out, bumping all over the ring. So I thought it was an excellent match. Aaron, we didn't even talk about it. What did you think of the match?
I think you're dead on about Takase, that she's like going to be a star, a huge star. She already does these little things. Like in this match, there's a suplex where instead it's like in a little run of moves, and instead of just like doing a normal suplex, she kind of holds her for just a millisecond and then twists back the other way to drop her. And it's just like that little bit of kind of creativity, ingenuity, character, a little bit of charisma that's like just reminds you of how special she is. And it also reminds you how new at this she is, because right before that she does a power slam that she's like just waiting on Nozuki to come greet her. So it's like, you see a little bit of her being green, but she's got a lot of creativity and a lot of compelling stuff about her that I think is going to make her, she should be a super duper top star, which is a very clinical definition of what makes a great Joshi wrestler. So I like the match quite a bit. I thought it was especially good at the beginning when when Takase is working over Nozuki's back. Like that seemed really focused. I mean, you might see a pattern for me that I like, kind of that sort of match where you're focused on something and the person sells for a while and then they have a comeback. Kind of just like I like Southern style wrestling, which is done in Joshi. But the Nozuki's comeback kind of lost me a little bit. Wasn't as compelling, but that's hard. Sometimes it's hard to be as compelling as someone when you're in the ring with somebody like Takase. But the closing stretch here was really, really fun. So overall, I thought it was a good match. What is next on our list is just the Choco Pro shows that have been going on.
Yeah, so I just wanted to briefly mention, not really going to go into depth into any of these shows, but Gatoh Move has launched a spin-off promotion called Chocolate Pro Wrestling, Choco Pro. They've been taping at Ichiga Chocolate Square, which is the usual Gatoh Move, the very famous Gatoh Move room with no ring. And have been taping with no fans, as obviously we're at the point now when shows are either not running or running for no fans, but have been super fun shows. They last about an hour and 15 minutes. They're on the Gatoh Move YouTube channel. The first show featured Minoru Suzuki in the main event. Definitely gets goofy with him taking on the entire Gatoh Move roster at one point, but super fun shows, very good to check out. Just throw on, give them a watch. So recommend checking those out. I believe at this point they've had 2 shows. Ryu Mizunami was on the second show, tagging with Mei Saruga. So that's another fun match to check out.
And anybody who says the Boneyard match isn't wrestling because there wasn't a ring, watch Gatoh Move sometimes, folks. It's still wrestling.
the originator, draw the line from Gatoh Move to the Boneyard match.
All right. Next up, we just got a few shows left. Sendai Girls on 3/28. They ran the first round of the Joshi Rookie Tournament. And I thought this was a lot of fun, but unfortunately it kind of peaked at the beginning of the show for me, rather than how you kind of usually want to peak a wrestling show. But the Mikoto Shindo versus Akari match I thought was a lot of fun, and the Maria Meiho Suzuki match was probably even better than the opening match. So there was a lot to like here.
Yeah, I'm going to go to bat. Meiho Suzuki and Maria, I thought it was an amazing match again. They have the style of, especially watching these all in order, and seeing sort of two rookies go at it. You can definitely see the difference in the way that May and Maria wrestle. It seems like a fight. They're fighting for every move. They're really hitting each other very hard. Every move is a struggle. The whole thing seems like a true fight, just like the previous match they had in Marvelous, which I really loved. I also enjoyed Haruka Umasaki versus Yurika Oka. I enjoyed that match as well, but I do see what you're talking about. Some of these matches, you do have to remember these are rookies. They are fairly inexperienced people, especially Natsuo Kaneko, who this was her first match as her debut. Sort of a big spot to be put in this tournament with a lot of very good rookies. So I thought that she was fine, but yeah, sort of the ups and downs of a tournament featuring only rookies. But I think we'll look back on this in a few years, just like we do with the 2008 and 2009 versions of the tournament. And I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of stars coming out of this tournament.
I absolutely agree. One thing that really stood out to me in this tournament, which a note I wrote down, which was you can tell that none of these wrestlers have reached their full potential, of course, which they shouldn't have because they're very young. Because a Joshi has reached her full potential when she doesn't hesitate to slap someone across the face and just slaps as hard as she possibly can. In that Haruka Umasaki and Yurika Oka match, there was Umasaki was going to slap Oka once, and you could just see her not really wanting to do it. She was like, "Okay, here you go. Here's the slap. That's what I'm supposed to do." It's like when you grow up, Haruka, you will just slap the shit out of whoever's standing across from you. Taylor, I've said a lot of things today that Taylor just won't touch for whatever reason. It's fine. We got 2 shows left, and really just 2 matches left, I would say. The Tokyo Joshi Pro show from April 3rd, and this was a Itabashi Green Hall match. Main event was Natsumi Maki taking on Miyu Yamashita in the you said it was the third one. Are we sure it was the third match of their...
No, so I realized...
One, right?
That was from the 21st, which we don't actually have on the list. But we can talk about this. We can talk about both Tokyo Joshi shows.
No, I fucked this up then because I watched the one from March 21, I think.
No, which is correct. That is correct. But there was also Tokyo Joshi had a show on April 3rd, which I'll talk about after we talk about Miyu and Natsumi.
Oh, well, I get screwed up on that because I did not see the Tokyo Joshi Pro 4-3 show, but I did watch the Natsumi Maki Miyu Yamashita match, and honestly, I thought this series peaked with the first match. There was good stuff in this that I enjoyed, but my favorite of the series was the very first one. I don't think they've topped that yet.
I would agree with that, but I also really enjoyed this match. I thought it was very good as well. I was surprised with the outcome of the match. The story of the matches has been Natsumi Maki trying to defeat Miyu, and it didn't happen. Not sorry for spoilers for the match, but it didn't happen again. I figured that Maki would, in her third attempt, get the victory, and that would move her on. She didn't get the victory. So now I'm wondering if they do yet another match or if she moves on and comes back maybe at a later point when she's done whatever she needs to do to take the final step to beat Miyu. But I really enjoyed it. I think that they work very well together, and I've enjoyed Tokyo Joshi's ability now that Miyu is sort of outside of the title picture. She lost the title and now has sort of drifted outside the picture, that they've given her this quick sort of basic story to still keep her in higher profile matches, because I think she's one of the best workers in the whole company. So I'm glad to see her still getting a spotlight series of matches.
Yeah, it's a pretty clever way to kind of keep her away from the title, but still keep her involved. So that's been good. I guess my problem, Taylor, is just like what you said about you were surprised at the finish. It's like, well, what's the point of these matches if Natsumi Maki doesn't ultimately get a win at some point? It's just kind of that's not compelling to me.
Right, and I don't know how much of it is. I know that they had a match scheduled, and it was on a show that was canceled, and then so I don't know if something happened where they had a plan of a certain number of matches, and because of the cancellations, things got moved around, or something happened. I don't know if that's the case or not. But yeah, sort of a strange outcome, because I don't know really where they go from here, except for having another match, I guess, or maybe having a match in 6 months when Maki has gone out and developed, quote unquote, developed her skills more. I think she's a super talented wrestler, but in storyline, gone out, developed her skills more, and maybe comes back and beats Miyu in a larger, maybe for a title shot, or for a title itself down the line, and she finally gets that big victory.
Okay, what did I miss on the Tokyo Joshi Pro show from April 3rd?
So April 3rd, Tokyo Joshi had a no people show at their dojo at the DDT Tokyo Joshi dojo. It was a 10-on-10 gauntlet match. There were 10 people on each team, Team Red and Team White, and they had singles matches with 2-count fall rules, and the team with remaining members at the end would win coupons to the Genghis Khan restaurant, like they've done in the past. I just have to say, not too much to say about matches themselves, but I think of all the companies, there's a lot of companies right now that are running these empty arena, dojo shows, and I think Tokyo Joshi has probably done the best of any company in presenting shows that are interesting to watch, because they, in many ways, they're totally different than a sort of traditional Tokyo Joshi show. They're not going out and just having a series of matches that are, here's a singles match, here's a tag match. They did this 10v10 gauntlet match, which I think was super fun. So they've been very good at sort of acknowledging that there's no fans, doing something different, but not having it. A lot of these other companies have the feeling of, you watch the show and they feel sort of like they're missing something, because obviously they're missing the fans. But these Tokyo Joshi shows have been super fun. I highly recommend checking them out. They posted the first 5 matches of the show to their YouTube channel, which you can watch for free. So if you want to check out some of the show, you can do it there. And you can see the rest of the show on DDT Universe. And I highly recommend it. A show that's once again, a very quick show, easy to get through. The matches are quick. They go really boom, boom, boom. They talk, they interview all the wrestlers. So definitely a fun show worth checking out.
And finally, a match that I've seen that Taylor hasn't.
Rare occurrence.
Yes. From DDT's April 4th show, they had one Joshi match on the show, and it was Syuri taking on Saki Akai. And I loved this. I'm sorry that you haven't seen it, Taylor, because my take is that it's the best no fans match from this era. I just thought it slapped. It was great. It was like, the story is basically like Syuri obviously is like definitely a killer as it compares to Saki Akai, and she's like trying to hit her with arm submissions basically immediately, and you see Saki trying to kind of fight back from that, but just not having enough. And I think Saki gets a bad rap as like a really bad wrestler. I think that's kind of the reputation that she has among some Western fans. And I think it's unearned. It might have been true at some point, but I think it's unearned now. She holds her own here with Syuri, who I think is really good. So I would highly recommend this to everyone. All right, those are all the shows that we're going to talk about. Now, normally we won't talk about as many shows, so we would have more to say in our recommended matches. But basically, our recommended matches are just a rundown of what we'd like from all the shows we've just talked about, Taylor.
Yeah, I'll just run through mine very quickly. I think I've talked about all of them except for, as Aaron mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have a secret bonus match to check out that we haven't talked about yet because it didn't happen in the last 2 weeks. But Momo versus Starlight Kid from the Stardom Cinderella tournament. Arisa Nakajima versus Rina Yamashita from SEADdLINNG on March 10th. Miyu Yamashita versus Natsumi Maki from Tokyo Joshi on March 21st. Mei Shizuki versus Maria from Sendai Girls on March 28th. I don't think we mentioned that show, all the matches are on the Sendai Girls YouTube channel, so you can check that out there. Takumi Iroha and Chigusa Nagayo versus Meiho Shizuki and Masha Slemovich from Marvelous on March 20th. Nagisa Nozaki versus Miyuki Takase from Wave on March 21st. And my bonus match, we mentioned it on the show before, Gaia Japan was scheduled to have their return show at Korakuen on April 15th. That show has now been postponed. But Gaia Japan has been posting matches from the history of the promotion on their YouTube channel, a variety of matches from all different years. They ran for 10 years, so I think they've posted from almost every year they've been around. But they posted, I think, either last week or the week before, Meiko Satomura versus Akira Hokuto from April 29th, 2001. A big show, a big match. I highly recommend you go and check out this match. It's Meiko Satomura, so she was just celebrating her 6th anniversary as a wrestler, going up against one of the legends of Joshi wrestling in Hokuto, sort of at the tail end of her career, because in I think less than a year she would be sort of unofficially retired from wrestling. But this is an excellent match. If you like Meiko Satomura, it's exactly what you would expect from a match of hers. Very hard-hitting. I think it's, without giving anything away, a super interesting finish to the match. It's definitely one worth checking out. And now that we have sort of less live wrestling happening week to week, I highly recommend going back, subscribing to the Gaia Japan YouTube channel, checking out all of their matches, but especially this match, which I thought was just incredible.
I'm just come across the old Twitter timeline that Oda Ward Gymnasium is closing between April 1 and April 30. So the April 29 Stardom show, if it happens, it's not going to be happening at Oda Ward Gymnasium.
Interesting. We're breaking news on this podcast now.
Yes, by the time everyone hears this, it'll definitely still be breaking news. Okay, I'll go down my recommended matches. And I meant to, on this show, and I did a terrible job of it because I didn't do it. I meant to give an idea of like where you could see these shows as we were talking about them. And I struck out on that. But maybe as I'm going through my recommended matches. So the first one is the 0-1 show from February 24, the Blast Death Match, Mayumi Ozaki and Saori Ano versus Aja Kong and Hiroyo Matsumoto. You probably can't see that unless you have because the Nico Nico one's probably gone, right?
Yeah, I think the Nico Nico one is gone down now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there are any legal ways to see that match at this point. I think that's also true for the March 10 SEADdLINNG show, which I recommended Hiroyo Matsumoto and Syuri versus the Max Voltage team of Miyuki Takase and Ryo Mizunami. From the Stardom Cinderella tournament, my main recommended matches were Utami Hayashita versus Maika, Momo Watanabe versus Starlight Kid, and Giulia versus Natsuko Tora. You can get those on Stardom World. It's like $8 a month, basically, to subscribe. Actually, the first two matches, Utami versus Maika and Momo versus Starlight Kid, I think are still up on YouTube. So I think you can get those on, because the first round was all on Stardom's YouTube. So I think you can still watch those there. But the Stardom World subscription is worth it. They're not running a ton of shows right now, but they're putting a lot of their archives up while they're not running. The Sendai Girls, the first round of the Joshi Rookie Tournament, Taylor just mentioned, that's all up on Sendai Girls YouTube. And my recommended matches from that were the Mikoto Shindo versus Akari and Mei Hoshizuki versus Maria matches. And then the April 4th DDT match, Syuri versus Saki Akai. And that's up on DDTpro.com. DDT Universe is their streaming service. And that's what, $8 or $9 a month?
Something in that. I think it's $9, depending on what the conversion rate is at the time that they charge you. It's around that much.
Yeah, basically, to watch a lot of this stuff, your Tokyo Joshi Pro is going to be on DDT Universe. Stardom's going to be on Stardom World. We talked about Marvelous being on Fresh Live. And other than that, you pretty much got to, if you want to do it legally, you got to pretty much follow Nico Nico. You can subscribe. There's a lot of great, we talked about this on our first episode, I think. There's two great instructions sites online, guides to tell you how to sign up for the service. And you just got to catch them because they're only up on Nico Nico for a week. So you got to catch them as quickly as you can.
Yeah, but Nico is very cheap. I think it comes out to something like $4.75 or something like that. It's in the $5 range, so it's very affordable.
And you can follow plenty of these on their YouTube pages and find stuff. Sendai Girls puts a lot of stuff up on YouTube, and you can see that there. This Wave match was up on YouTube. Was that on their YouTube, or did somebody just put that up?
Yeah, it's on the Wave. It's on the Wave YouTube channel.
Yeah, so you can see the Regina DeWave match that we talked about earlier on their YouTube channel. So normally we would talk about upcoming airings at this point, but we don't really know of a lot that's going to be airing soon. There are a handful of shows that are scheduled to happen over the next few weeks, but we also don't know if they're going to happen.
Yeah, and with the airings, I know on Nico, because Nico has less shows to air, I know that they've been putting up some classic shows. They put up a Sendai Girls show from 2006, which features Meiko, of course, and Dash Chizako and Hiroya Matsumoto. So they may put up more classic shows, but with Nico, you don't often know what's airing. Sometimes they will announce it the day before or 2 days before. So if you're subscribed to Nico, you can keep an eye on their homepage where they will announce. But it will probably be, if they air anything, it'll be sort of classic older shows as opposed to new current shows.
The upcoming shows that might happen that we know of right now, we got Ice Ribbon running dojo shows on April 11 and April 18. Those will almost certainly happen, just with no fans.
Yeah, I would imagine they'll happen. They probably will stream live on the Ice. As I mentioned, Ice Ribbon has their own Nico channel, which is separate, but they air they'll probably air those shows there. And the good thing about the Ice Ribbon Nico channel is those shows don't come down on the regular Nico channel. It's usually a week or so until the shows come down, but on the Ice Ribbon Nico, those shows stay up. I think almost, if not all of them, almost all of them stay up permanently on that channel.
Stardom has shows scheduled for 4/14 at Korakuen Hall. That will probably happen, but without fans. Although, no, actually, I guess we don't know. Korakuen wasn't running no fan shows, but Taylor, you told me before we started recording that you were able to click through on buying tickets. Not that you're buying tickets, obviously, you can't go, but you're able to do that, so maybe it's happening. Who knows?
Yeah, I was under the belief that Korakuen Hall was the one stopping the shows from running. I thought that they had come out and said, we don't want to have any shows, but this show is still up. I don't know, maybe by the time we post this, maybe they will post a change. I know that Stardom has canceled a handful of shows, one on the 11th and two on the 25th of April. I don't know if maybe they'll cancel these currently not canceled shows at a later point. But yes, I did go on the Stardom website to the Korakuen Hall event, and I could click through and technically buy tickets. So that would indicate that at least currently, they're not planning on having a no people show there because I would assume if they were doing that, they would have taken down the ticket sales already.
Yes. They also have their 418 and 419 shows scheduled for Shinkiba First Ring. I would expect those not to happen personally. We just told you that this 429 show is definitely not happening at Oda Ward Gymnasium, but certainly could happen elsewhere. And then Actors Girls has a show scheduled for April 19. I assume that will also be canceled.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I think it might just be far enough out. Like the Gaia Japan, which is on 415, I think just got postponed a day or two ago. So it may just be a timing thing where they get close enough and probably cancel it.
So obviously, if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, well, wait, what are Taylor and Aaron going to talk about if there aren't any Joshi shows that happen over the next 2 weeks? And the answer to that is basically we're kicking back and forth a lot of different ideas about classic content that we could rewatch and talk about or watch for the first time and talk about. We've talked about, diving a little deeper into some of these promotions and some of the wrestlers to kind of give you an idea of some of the people, but we're going to keep going. We will have a show every 2 weeks, assuming one of us doesn't, get this thing and die, then we'll just keep doing these shows.
Yeah, that's the plan. We'll figure out something, but we'll definitely have a show no matter what. Just will depend what we'll talk about.
Yep. I guess that's it then. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Taylor?
I don't think I have anything else. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to reach out to us, we're on Twitter at JBombAudio. You can also find me at Aaron Like the Car. Taylor's at TAMAIMBO. You can find him there. You can reach us at any of those ways if you want to talk about the show in any way or about Joshi generally. Subscribe to the show. Please give us a rating and review so that'll help other people try to find this show if they're interested in Joshi wrestling, but aren't necessarily running in the same circles that we all are, mostly on Twitter. So help us out there. But thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.